All right, so here we are on week 31 Thursday, and again, we have ourselves some interesting typos. E1 backwards E, sigma, I don't know what it's supposed to be. Those shouldn't exist, so you can just use a white, and you can just kind of color over it, and look, voila, it vanishes. See? Isn't that incredible? If you look at number 2, at that one, I just go over it with the 1. So we're going to just assume that it's 3 inches and something happened glitch-wise, and it's 2 inches. So number 1 would be length times width times height to find volume. So our base, right? Our base is going to be 3 by 2 by 1, which is going to be 6, right? 2 times 3 is 6. But then we're going to do that 5 times, right? Oh, this is not going to look like 5. Sure it is. Boom. And so we have those 6 square inches, but we have that times 5, so we're going to have 30 cubic inches. So 5 times 3 times 2 is 30 cubic inches as our volume, because 6 times 5 equals that. And so there we go. And over here we have 3 by 5 as the base, so we're going to say that that's 15, and then we're going to take that times 10, because there's going to be 10 layers of that, and that's going to give us 150, right? 15 times 10, and those are going to be cubic inches as well. So to help understand question 3, I drew a picture of a tape diagram that is broken into 20%, right? Because 20, 40, 60, I land on that 60%, and it says 60% right up here. So remember, highlighting is always a good thing to do. And that 12 people are in the band. And since 60% of the students are in band, 60% is 12. And so I line up my 60%, right? And then I shaded 3 of these pieces and wrote a 12 here, right at the same spot that 60 goes to, because from here to here is 60%, and from here to here is also 12 people. And if 3 pieces are 12 people, what would 1 piece be? We need to start there before we can answer the final question, how many people are in the class, which is all of it, right? So 12 broken into 3 pieces would be what per piece? 4. That is correct. 4, 4, and 4, right, would make 12. So that means these are 4 as well. And what would 5 be? So 4 times 5 is 20. And so there's 20 people in his class, right? 20 people. And so mathematically, there's a simple, you don't have to go through this whole picture. I just like you to understand kind of what's going on. So let's look at how we find 60% and the total of 12. If there's our 12 people, but that's not the total, how do we find its total if 60% is also not the total, because 100% would be its total? So in fractions, we know that the part is on top, the whole is on the bottom, right? The whole is how many pieces it takes to make a whole, and then this is what you're identifying. So our 60%, right? 60 is part of what whole? 100. Now, before we move on, we want to simplify this just because it makes life so much easier, and 60% is an easy one to simplify, right? Start by dividing both by 10, which means just take a 0 off. Now you're at 6/10. You see that? And now, what can we divide both of those numbers by? We can divide them both by 2. And that's going to give us our final and simplified fraction, which is the same as 60%, 3/5. So now I'm going to write 3/5, and I'm going to remember that 3 is the part and 5 is the whole. And now I'm going to write that that's equal to our 12 as the part and its I don't know as the whole. Remember, 12 was equal to 60%, but it was not the total of people. And since the total or whole goes on the bottom, we're going to put the 12 on top. So now the question is, how do you get from 3 to 12? Well, isn't that times 4, right? We're just making an equivalent fraction here. So we're going to do 5 times 4 to find x. So therefore, x is 20. So that's one way of finding it. There's actually tons of other ways to find it, but this is, in my mind, the simplest way of using fractions and equivalent fractions because we've done that before. So one other way I'll show you is we take our 12 and we're going to divide it by 60%, which is 6/10. The reason we're dividing is because when you divide by a decimal, your number actually gets bigger. Remember, it's backwards from dividing by a whole number, which makes your number smaller. And so we need to get rid of that lie that when I divide, I get smaller. No, it's only when you divide by whole numbers. When you divide by a decimal, your number's going to get bigger. And so literally, if you take your 12 as your part and you divide by the percentage, which is the part, you will end up at the total, the whole. And so what we're going to do is do our 12 people divided by 0.6. We're going to have to scoot this decimal over, right? Put it there. So now we have a whole number, and we're going to have to scoot this decimal over. Remember, there's an imaginary decimal right here behind the 12 because this is the ones place, and a decimal always would go after the ones place. So now we have to fill it with a 0. So we have 120 divided by 6. Well, you can guess it, but 12 divided by 6 is 2, which is 12, and then we have our 0. So look where I ended up. So I could have simply understood the concept of part-whole relationship with percentages to figure out by looking for the total, I can divide by the percentage. And I'd get what x equals, 20 people. Or I could set it up as a fraction. I could draw the picture. Now, I will tell you, the picture only works when it's a easy percentage like 60% or 50% or 25%. But when you get something like 38% or 47%, pictures aren't going to work very well. You're going to want to use a part-whole relationship and the fractions, or you're going to want to use division if you're looking for the total, or multiplication if you're looking for the part. And for median, remember, you're just crossing out. I'm going to go ahead and do all three there and those three. This one, and then this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and it looks like I'm left with 28. How many dots are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I should have 2 middles, so let's see. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So these two are the middle, so it's actually 28.5. I'm going to do that again. Did I count that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yep, 14, which means there's going to be 2 middles. And it's going to be, the 7th from this side and the 7th from that side. So that leaves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on that side. And so 28 and 29 are our medians. And when you figure out what's between them, it's 28.5, but you could add them together, right? You would do 28 plus 29, and you would end up with 57. Then you do 57 divided by 2, and you're going to end up with 28.5. So I have put my picture of our histogram in here, and this is 136 to 140 centimeters, so the number of girls looks to be 14. You can check it if you'd like, but I'm pretty sure it's 14 girls, and that's what this question is asking. So to explain this one, I would explain that I'm going to find the area of the rectangle by finding the length of the total side on this bottom half here. And I already know the width is 3, so I'm going to have a 3 by something rectangle, and I'm going to end up adding that to the area of the triangles, right? So now I can show the area of the triangles by finding them like this, and then so I'm just going to add the colors together, right? And we know what the base and the width of the triangles are. So our base is 4, our height is 4, and that's going to be identical because I'm pretty sure they stuck this line here to show a 90-degree angle, maybe? I don't know. But we're going to say that this is 4 as well. And so we have 2 4x4 base and height triangles, and base times height divided by 2 twice. It's just going to cancel that out. So we can just do 4 times 4, which is base times height. And that's going to be 16. So our triangles are going to be 16 altogether, right? 2 of them at 8, because this is 8 and this is 8 when you do 16 divided by 2. And so now all we have to do is find our rectangle. And to find our missing side, it's pretty simple. We are just going to combine the sections that it gives us. So we have a 4, that's 8, and a 5. That makes 13. So it's 3 times 13 to find the area of that rectangle. And 3 times 12 is 36. One more 3 is 39. So that's going to equal 39 plus 16. And 39 plus 16 is going to give us 55 centimeters squared.